Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I am highlighting and comparing a range of Diamine inks. Now Pulp, the retailer in Victoria, Australia, online retailer, have become a stocker of Diamine inks, and they offer them at amazing prices and like one of the widest ranges of the Diamine inks available, particularly here in Australia. As well as supplying them in the usual 80 and 30ml bottles, they're doing samples, and in the case here, a sample set, and they're going to do this for a range of the colours. They have started with the deep reds, and I'm sort of wearing a few of them. The deep red set is 6 samples. That is Oxblood, Red Dragon, Syrah, Burgundy Royale from the 150th anniversary series, Crimson, and Monaco Red. They offer these in the 2ml sample vials. And the sample set retails in Australia for $16.95, and it's a really great way to explore a colour range. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show these colours, and I'm going to sort of show them on 2 different sorts of paper, show them together so we can get a bit of a sense as to how they all look sort of alongside each other. Okay, so Diamine has been around since 1864, and they are one of the big names of ink, really like one of the widest ranges of colours. The inks are really, really well behaved, really well priced, and incredibly, available at so many retailers, which is really wonderful. And because they have such a wide range of colours, sometimes choosing one can be a little bit tricky. So let's check out these deep reds, and then we can talk about sort of prices and stuff like that. Okay, so here I have it on Tomor River paper, and I've gone through and I've done each colour. I've also done them on Rhodia and just on a bit of standard sort of copy paper, just so we can see them. Let's start with Diamine Oxblood. So Oxblood is a beautiful sort of red. It's got some gold sheen. A lot of these have like a goldy green sort of coloured sheen to them. In fact, if I move the page a bit, we can sort of see, hopefully see that pick up a little bit in the camera there. Strand where it pulls, of course. Oxblood, it has a really lovely brown undertone to it. The name Oxblood is incredibly apt, but with these sort of shading, we get like a little bit of that brown sort of coming through, which is quite nice. Next in the set is Red Dragon, which is a little bit more vibrant, particularly in the lighter shading. Still got a sort of a bit of brown in there, but not sort of too, like, it's more red, I think. And once again, that sort of greeny gold sheen. This is a really nice colour if you want a red that is sort of a bit more, like, not your commercial sort of red, sort of something with a bit of personality, but still jumps off the page. It's got a lovely richness to it. Next is Syrah, which leans to sort of the purpley magenta end of red. Once again, that same sort of greeny gold sheen. You're not going to see a lot of this sheen in the writing, even on like on Tomor River paper, which is very ink resistant. But this is lovely sort of red winey colour, and it's beautiful, and it performs super, super well. They all perform well, but I think Syrah is a really, really wonderful ink. Now, to mark the 150th anniversary, Diamine released a set of 8 inks, and then a second set, and one of those colours is the Burgundy Royale. These come in not in the regular bottles, but in the triangular bottles, and do cost a little bit more. Burgundy Royale is nice. It's got sort of a really interesting sort of like it's hard to explain, but like there's sort of like this velvet red or something to it, which is beautiful. Nice shading, really nice shading actually here, and once again performs really nicely. Slightly brown, slightly more flat colour in terms of like sheen and things like that, but a really lovely colour. You can see particularly, I think, in the little scribble there, some really lovely sort of richness in this ink. The final 2 in the set. Here we have Crimson, which I think is a really underrated ink. It's beautiful red, like this sort of deep red. The shading is wonderful. The depth, the darker shading is absolutely stunning. But that lighter shading, it's very warm, it's rich. And these are all deep reds. They all run within the same sort of family color range. But this one I think is really quite a lovely, rich red. Once again, one of those reds that if you wanted something to pop on the page, but without being sort of like a commercial red, like with slight hints of magenta and, you know, those sorts of things in it. This is a really nice option. Now, one of my favorite inks in the set, and this has been a favorite of mine for a while, is Monaco Red. It's probably one of the lighter of the six. You can see sort of in the writing where we get some shading that you get pops of almost an orangey, like burnt sienna sort of red, which I think is what they were sort of going for. There's a good sense of like what I see is like a stony red, bits of sheen, lovely shading. As I said, these Diamine inks, you know, they are beautiful to write with. They're not lubricated inks, but they do flow very well, and the colors are vibrant and stay vibrant, and they just perform so nicely. There's very little bleed, very little feather on any of these inks. And of course, Diamine have a range that goes from very standard colors through to some of the, particularly things like the German exclusives, like Smoke on the Water and stuff like that, that are just so saturated and so rich and have tons of sheen, and they have shade, and they also have shimmer ranges and all of that. So Diamine is a wonderful brand, and having a set like this is a really interesting way to explore a range of colours. Let's look at it now on Rhodia, where I've done a couple of other things. Okay, so here we have the 6 inks on Rhodia 80 GSM paper. What I've done is I've done a little scribble, some writing, a little swab there, but also I've done a little bit of a water test. It's great to be able to see the water resistance of an ink, see if there's any permanence to it. I know that's important to a lot of people, but also I like to see how ink reacts with water, because I use this for art, and as a lot of people do. So let's start with Oxblood. Once again, that lovely brown shade coming through, which is nice. And when the water hits it, we do lose a lot of the ink. There's a little bit of definition. You can still be able to read what is there. But I think like a lot of the ink goes away. Now, these are generally fairly saturated inks. These dark reds, so things like cleaning it out of a pen, you might want to be a bit more careful with it. But Diamine are safe, very safe for pens. They are less likely to stain than a lot of brands. They will not clog up, things like that. Just like, you know, cleaning it out of a piston, it'll take a bit of water to run it through, for instance. But yeah, we'll lose a lot of it. Here we have with the Red Dragon, you know, like there's a little bit of a, you know, sort of the more vibrancy sort of coming through, but we do lose a lot of it. It moves around quite a lot, and there's not really a lot left there at all. Syrah is interesting. This is where we see that purpley sort of colour really come through, and that's what's left. It's really interesting. Like, that's still quite a vibrant sort of purple. I love this colour, and I love it on Rhodia, but moving it around, like, this would be really cool to play with, sort of with water effects. The Burgundy Royale actually performs really well. Like, there's still a lot of definition left there once the water's cleaned up. It does move around. You are gonna, like, it's going to be a mess. All of these will, but you are left with a sort of that more browny, richy, sort of grey undertone sort of coming through after the water is gone. With Crimson, I love this on the page. That sort of has a really lovely, you know, there's a nice sort of that sort of pinky magenta sort of coming through there, which is great. And once again, we get some definition, but the ink moves around a lot. Monaco Red is interesting because with that lovely browny sort of orange that's there, that's what you're left with. Like, you can still read that. It moves around, but like, it's probably the closest of the inks to the original colour, just a lighter version of it, which I find interesting, and I think that's actually really great. Like, none of these are water resistant, none of them are permanent, but what we have is we have different levels of, you know, what is left and, you know, what is able to be resurrected, if you will. But they look great on the page and they perform really well. And in terms of performance, let's quickly look at it here on 80 gram copy paper. This is just regular printer paper from the brand Reflex. We can see here, like, we've got the 6 inks. There's a little bit of feathering. there's going to be, this is not fountain pen friendly paper, and these were written with a glass dip pen, sort of quite freshly dipped. So you are laying down quite a lot of ink. What we do notice though is that we lose a lot of the shading. They're more flat, but once again, that's a property more of the paper than of the ink. But you can see the definition, I think, of the variation of the colors across the range nicely here. So the lovely brown of Oxblood once again, or the sort of slightly sort of magenta coming through in the crimson, and that sort of more sort of not terracotta, but like so that brick red, shall we say, in Monaco. On the reverse of the page, there is a bit of bleed. Like, this is not fountain pen friendly paper, and particularly in these spots, we are putting down quite a lot of ink. So we are, like, you can't expect this to perform the same as, say, Rhodia, which I'll show you the back of in just a second. But, you know, I think, you know, really, in terms of ink being used on in a fairly wet writing instrument, on fountain pen, non-fountain pen friendly paper, I think they actually look good, they perform well, and as I said, there's not a whole lot of feathering or spread. If we look at the reverse of the Rhodia page, like, even a lot of those swab sections don't come through. Where the water doesn't come through, but there's no bleeding. And if we look up close, like, we sort of saw it relatively up close, but like really up close, like, we're not getting bleed happening. So, or feather, sorry. So look, these are really, like, nice inks. My personal favorites, I love Red Dragon and I love Syrah, and Monaco Red I think is a great red. Oxblood is very popular, and I think Crimson is a very underrated ink. So I should go into some price things. So, as I said, Pulp have recently become a retailer for Diamine, and they have released them at incredible prices. So the two main formats you can get these ink in is the 80ml and the 30ml bottle. Now, these are the most competitive prices I've seen in Australia, and I'm going by their pricing because they are the ones who have provided these sample vials for this comparison video. So if the 30ml bottle retails at Pulp for $8.95 and the 80ml for $19.95, which makes them really good value, particularly the 80ml bottle, I think. The samples are $2.95 each, and as I said, the sample set here for 6 inks is $16.95. So you are getting like a little discount on the full price of the 6 samples if you buy them as a set. So they started with these deep reds, which I think are really, really lovely. And I think they plan to sort of release a range of these sample sets, which would be really great. So what are your thoughts about Diamine, particularly about these inks? Like, what do you love? What have you noticed? Let's keep the dialogue open. Let's keep sort of spreading the word about these inks, and let's see... let's enjoy them and try them. And even if you are international, check out Pulp because they have a wonderful, wonderful range of both Diamine, but across the board, a wonderful range of inks. You can find them at pulpaddiction.com.au, as it says there on the sample. And these are good samples. Like the 2ml, they're in a nice sort of very safe little sample vial. It's good. So I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here, or drop me an email, which is also listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you'd like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your inks, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.